started. Thank you for coming to this lecture. The purpose of the lecture is fundamentally to help you get a better mark on your SSCs. So that's really what I'm here for. I also hope that this whole experience introduces you to research and just starts making you think more about what's involved and how we can make decisions based on evidence as opposed to very strong opinion. Strong opinions and passion are wonderful, but evidence has to count at least as much. And that's what you're going to be learning about in your SSCs. I have handouts at the top of the lecture theater and in the middle, so please help yourself to a handout. My name is Stephen Milikowski. I manage a small work group called Learning Technology Systems. For the most part, we support Moodle. However, we're going to be expanding our service into other learning technologies, and one technology we help with is SurveyMonkey. I quite enjoy research in general, and since I enjoy research and I'm familiar with e-learning tools, it's a rather natural combination for me to be helping you today with SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey is not just for online surveys. It works very well for paper surveys as well, and I'll be talking about that in this presentation. I'm going to start by describing what the survey results look like. So once you've collected all your data, what are you going to see? I'm going to show you how SurveyMonkey makes it very easy to get a snapshot of your data. That's one reason why I emphasize paper surveys. You can easily enter the data from a paper survey, put it into SurveyMonkey, and it will quickly give you some results. There are other tools that can give you the results for a paper survey or an online survey, such as Microsoft Excel or SPSS. The challenge is those tools, being quite powerful, are also quite sophisticated. So it takes some time to learn them. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying it takes some time to learn them. SurveyMonkey can give you some results a lot faster, and I'll be showing those in just a moment. After I show you some results, I'm going to talk about your research question. It may seem a bit vague, a bit dull. Actually, what is this research question business? It becomes surprisingly important when you start making your poster and when you start thinking about standing next to your, thinking about people looking at your poster and assessing it. So I'm going to spend a moment talking about a careful research question. I'll describe some other free online resources and some key issues to consider, issues you should focus on, and some issues you should avoid for your first study. As you might guess, I'm not from around here. I'm from the US. I never need to use a microphone because I can bounce my voice off the back wall. I get quite enthusiastic about this lecture because I enjoy it. However, please don't let my enthusiasm sort of prevent you from asking questions. I like hearing your questions. Does anybody have any right now? Yes?
Should all the surveys have been approved by this point? So, in the process of approving some?
The best I can, I'll give the best answer I can. My particular part of this whole process is to describe SurveyMonkey. I have a vague awareness of all the other parts you have to go through. I don't have a clear idea of when you should have your survey approved. You don't have to have it approved to observe this lecture, be in this lecture. I do encourage you to get it approved as soon as possible. However, in this lecture, we're also going to talk about the importance of looking it over a few times before getting it approved. Long answer to a short question, but that's the best I got. Anything else? I'll get started. I'm going to start from the end and then go back to the start. Here's what your results are going to look like, or some survey results are going to look like in SurveyMonkey. This is a survey conducted by St. George's e-learning unit, which I was previously a part of, and it asks students about what sort of mobile devices they used. The e-learning unit is interested in that so they can make the best decisions about various software to help create or provide for St. George's students. So here's what the results look like. A lot of tabulations. We can see we ask students what course they are on. You might ask, if you're working with doctors, GPs, you might ask them what their specialty is. You might ask them how many years they've been a GP. We ask them what year they're in. SurveyMonkey automatically tabulates this information if you set your question up right. And I'm going to talk about setting your questions up right later in this lecture. Lots of bar charts, lots of percentages. This is your first real attempt or serious attempt at collecting data. So all you really have to do is focus on these very basic statistics. Percentages, bar charts. There's two kinds of statistics. One's called descriptive statistics. That's what we have here. The other kind is called inferential statistics. That's the kind where you start having p-values and likelihood and comparing one group to another. That's the kind of statistics that your tutor or your professors may be using in their research. We strongly recommend you don't do that now. Not in your first study. Start with the basic stuff. If you're too ambitious, that can actually hurt you in your first study. Some more reports from SurveyMonkey. We asked people what year they were born. What kind of device they have. Trying to find one more type of question. This is a ranking question. We asked them what's most important. And so people tell us first, this is most important, second most important, and least important. This kind of question can be a bit more helpful than the standard Likert scale question. A Likert scale question is strongly disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. That kind of question is almost too easy to answer. You can just sort of be nice. I agree. That's nice. With this kind of question, you have to choose. One is more important than the other. Of course, you have to use this question accordingly. It doesn't fit for all situations. But I do recommend you consider it if it's a good fit in your survey. How many hours per week are you doing something? Another question we asked. That's a quick overview of the results you will get in SurveyMonkey. Okay, how do we get there? That's my next topic. When you look at your results, at first they're really interesting. They're exciting. You look at them and you're like, wow, that surprises me, and that doesn't surprise me. Often, for students or for professional researchers, after you look at them for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, the results, they can get a bit less interesting. It's like, that doesn't really surprise me very much. That one either. And that one, yeah, that worked out about how I would guess too. The reason why this happens is the research question you're asking. If you ask a question that we already know quite a bit about, there's a good chance you're going to get answers that we know quite a bit about. So an important challenge is to come up with a research question that is specific and different than what we've known before. I'll give you an example. In my beloved field of e-learning or learning technology, this question is asked a lot by professional researchers. Do people like this wonderful new e-learning tool? Apple releases another iPad. Apple releases another iPhone. So someone like myself says, it's just so cool. And they compare the latest iPhone to the last iPhone, and they really expect the latest one to be better because it's new. It's not usually that much different. Another rather unusual part of this question is, generally speaking, if you ask people if they like a new gadget, what are they going to say? Yeah. If you ask people if they like spending more time with their GP, what are they going to say? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's okay, as long as you have that in mind before you create your research question. For instance, in this particular part of London, which specific interactions with the GP do they find most appealing? I just made that up right now. I'm sure you can come up with some options too. And we're going to talk more about that in this presentation. Another example, ancient Chinese medicine. I've helped some students at St. George's create surveys in ancient Chinese medicine after I had a little conversation with them. And this question is intuitively appealing, but it doesn't hold up well to analysis. First of all, what is it? What are we asking about? China's existed for about 4,000 years. That's 40 millennia. Well, which one of those 40 millennia are we talking about? That's a long time. That's a lot of millennia. Also, China's a big place. Let's say it has 100 big cities. So we have 100 big cities over 40 millennia, and we're calling it the same thing. It's not. I'm not criticizing ancient Chinese medicine. I'm criticizing the research question that discusses it. Now, if we were to say, how does this particular form, specific form of ancient Chinese medicine help this particular group? Okay, now we're talking about something. Another example is natural medicine. I love nature. I love getting outside. I like running marathons. I cycle for hundreds of miles just for the fun of it. My friends tease me that I have this plate of vegetables every day. I can't cook. I can do surveys, but I can't cook, but I can cut vegetables. I like natural food. It's great. But natural medicine, what is it? It's a lot of things. And some people will try to sell ideas about natural medicine or ancient Chinese medicine because they're going to make some money on it. You're not. You want to ask challenging questions and helpful questions. So I really ask you to seriously think about your research question. Is it specific enough? A minimal effort in Google Scholar will go a long way. Search for the research question you're reading about. See what other people have investigated about it. Read an article or two. If your poster references an article or two that talks about a study and you say, I'm going to build on the results of that study, your mark just started going up. That's what science is about. Building on prior knowledge, on existing knowledge, existing studies. I should also update this slide. The library now has something called Hunter that can also help you easily find articles. Okay, after you've revised your question, I recommend writing your survey questions in Microsoft Word. Don't jump immediately into SurveyMonkey. Ask other people to look at them. Get comments on your questions. Other people will spot potential problems that you don't see anymore. Whenever I write an academic article, a survey, or even a creative writing piece, I have people look at it. They see things I can't see anymore. So you have your research question, you have a bunch of survey questions. Please confirm that each survey question clearly relates to the research question. That may seem obvious, but it's worth having a look. Every question you write is more work you have to conduct in analyzing it. So it's a good idea to make sure those questions are clearly relevant. Here's a common and surprisingly unhelpful question to put on a survey. What is your ethnicity? Sometimes, it's important to ask about ethnicity. But this question shows up a lot because even when people are not asking about ethnicity. Unless you're going to try to associate ethnic background with some part of the survey, there's no reason to ask about ethnicity. People often confuse making a survey with making a form. When you make a form, when you complete a form, you're always asked, or often asked, about your ethnicity. Because St. George's and every other government institution has to know your ethnicity for government reporting. They have a reason to ask. For your surveys, you should have a clear reason to ask before putting that question. I also want to mention another important point. Professionals will disagree. Whether it's me and someone else who creates surveys, whether it's lecturers, I'm sure you've heard different perspectives from different lecturers. It's good that professionals disagree. We have to have active debate. Some people who mark your SSC posters will say you should include ethnicity because they want to know the distribution of people that completed your survey. That's fine. You can do whatever you want. Just think about it and have a good answer for yourself. Personally, I think I have a limited number of survey questions to put on a survey and time to ask people, so I don't include it. However, some of my respected colleagues always put it on there, and perhaps they cut out some other questions to save time, or else they have kind of a long survey that could be trimmed. But you make up your own mind on that. After you have revised your questions in MS Word, revise them once more and make your survey as simple as possible. Writing a survey is very similar to writing anything else, an academic paper or otherwise. I'd like to bring up a quote at this point from the mathematician Pascal. Pascal wrote a very long letter to a friend many years ago. At the end of the long letter to a friend, he said, "Sorry this letter was so long. It would have been shorter, but I didn't have the time." Writing short takes time. And usually, it's better. I'm currently in the process of trying to publish a book, and my various sources are telling me shorter, 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 shorter. Every time I've made it shorter, it's gotten a little better. Throw away words that don't matter. Or ideas that don't matter. Because if those things stay in your poster, you're asking people to read stuff that's not really relevant. We all get bothered by that. Finally, create your paper or your online survey. And finally, I'll talk about SurveyMonkey. Please give yourself some time to learn it and some helpful links. In a moment, I'm going to show you, give you a little tour of SurveyMonkey. Right now, I'll briefly say the help system is surprisingly good. Many help systems aren't that helpful, ironically. They give us too much information, just like I spoke a moment ago about too much writing. SurveyMonkey's help system tends to give you 3 to 5 short steps how to solve your problem, and then they have a little box next to it that says, people who looked at this particular help page also looked at these. So you can get some good help from the help. There are some free books online with SurveyMonkey, Best Practices for Survey Design. That talks about writing questions. That talks about increasing your response rate. Always a challenging topic, response rate, getting people to respond. While I'm thinking of it, I will mention, please plan on sending out a reminder if you're using an online survey. If you're talking to people in person, please plan on visiting them multiple times. It's difficult to get the response rate, so think about it ahead of time. You're going to have to, very gracefully, politely, ask people again. SurveyMonkey has some help for that too. Some features to focus on. I recommend focusing on simple features. Single best answer, multiple select, Likert scale. Likert scale, just to clarify again, is strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. In SurveyMonkey, a Likert scale is called a matrix question. I put the note maybe in there because that's pushing the limits of advanced. Don't go too far beyond that question type. A very abstract term in SurveyMonkey is a collector. You're going to need to read the help system about a collector. It's critical. I'll describe briefly what it is right now. SurveyMonkey is a web-based application that you have to sign into. So you sign in, you make a survey, you work on it, and let's say it's all done now. So you want to send it out. You're looking at a web page that has your survey, so what most people do is that we highlight the part at the top, we copy it, and we paste it into an email message. That's where we normally do it. If you do that in SurveyMonkey and send it to somebody, they'll be brought to the sign-in page, not your survey. The collector gives you the URL to use to send to people. So you want to read a bit about that? If I have time, I'm going to show you exactly where it is and how to find it. Some of you are completing paper surveys, or even better, I will say, paper and online surveys. A tip I will throw in regarding the return rate: if you are completing an only online survey and your response is not as high as you would like, consider doing paper as well. SurveyMonkey has a feature where you can print it as a paper survey. And then you can do both. Return rates on paper are usually much higher than return rates for electronic. You can guess why. You got a person standing there with a piece of paper, smiling, being nice. Would you please complete this survey? And online is another item in your inbox. Which one can you ignore faster? Items to avoid, or be very careful with. St. George's students have spent hours using the following features with moderate benefit or less. Branching. SurveyMonkey can do something called branching. And so if you ask students what year they're in, you can branch and ask year 1 students these questions, and year 2 students those questions. For now, don't do it. It's too advanced for a first effort at a survey, unless for unusual reasons you've used SurveyMonkey before and conducted research in the past. Also be careful of questions that look really cool. Wow, I can do this and I can do that. There's got to be a use for this. I recommend you focus on the simple stuff first. Number of questions. Every question you ask is going to require some of your time to analyze. If you have 30 questions, you're going to be looking at all those questions and trying to figure out what's important here, what's going to get you a good mark. If you start early and look at your questions to begin with and reduce that to 15 questions, and there's no magic number, by the way, don't write down the exact numbers. Get that as far down as possible. You've already done that early analysis by already prioritizing your questions. I mentioned using Google Scholar or else Hunter to find articles. That can also help you focus. If somebody else only included those 10 questions, maybe you should only include those 10 questions, or maybe 3 or 4 more to build on their study. Visual appearance. Every so often I get someone that just has to get the color just right. Save that for the weekends and shopping, not for your surveys. As long as it looks good enough, it's good enough. The wording. I used to help more students. I actually created the survey for them. Actually, some teaching staff too. I helped them create their surveys. And I keep on getting messages, or not always, but there's always a few that say, can you change this word to that word and that word to this word and all this? And finally I say no. These days, I have people create their own surveys more often. That works pretty well because SurveyMonkey is pretty easy to use. To save yourself some time, when you create that survey in Microsoft Word, go over the wording very, 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 very carefully. That'll save you time editing it when you put it in SurveyMonkey. For now, focus on making a very good, simple survey. I'm going to pause for a moment and go back to my previous point about a simple survey. I always give this little part of my lecture at feeling a little bit nervous, but I call it tutor management. I call it tutor management. Whether you're working with your tutor on this survey, or one day you're like me, and you're working with a line manager or other researchers, someone's going to make suggestions about how to make it better. Well, that's where some tutor management comes into place, or manager management, which I sometimes call it. For instance, let's say your tutor says, you really, really should be using SPSS for this, because SPSS really isn't that hard. Well, I would say to my tutor, yeah, but I heard that I'll be spending a lot of time learning SPSS, because I don't really know all these statistics yet. The tutor says, oh, it's really easy. No problem. You just got to try a little harder. At that point, you can say, I went to this lecture by this strange American, and he used surveys a lot. And he said that students should really try to make a good survey, a simple one, the first time. And I really want to try that. And the tutor says, you know what, I'm getting late, and I really have to get going. I still think you should use SPSS, but if you want to have that low-quality survey, go ahead. And you say, thank you for your time. The same might happen with the number of questions or the sophistication of your questions. You want to get a good mark. Keep it simple. Your tutor doesn't give you the mark. The tutor gives you advice. Same as your math. Okay. Please don't skip this step. The previous steps with Microsoft Word, reviewing and revising your survey will save you time at this point. Okay. St. George's has purchased a survey account for students. Works for paper and online surveys. It's a good mid-range survey system. Fairly easy to use, good help system. But like any technology, any survey, any person, it has strengths and weaknesses. I just mentioned some of the strengths. Some of the weaknesses with SurveyMonkey, or one of the main weaknesses, is that it doesn't tell the difference between one person signing into SurveyMonkey and another. That means that you can see his account, his survey, and you can see hers. You can all see each other's surveys. That's a pretty serious privacy issue. We can't solve it technologically, so we solve it administratively. That's where you send me a message saying, I want to meet with you for 15 minutes, and I give you a form. The form describes what I just told you. We have this problem with SurveyMonkey. It then has a list of bullet points saying, here's what we require you to do in order to not break this privacy issue. Basically, it says, don't look at other people's surveys, please. That's also in the whole realm of professional development. So after this lecture, send me a note. My contact information is on the handout. If you want to keep things moving, give me 2 or 3 time periods when you're available. Then I'll respond back and say, I'm available at this time period. Here's where my office is. My office is in the library. If you go to the front desk and say you have a meeting with me, they will direct you to my desk. That's the weakness I just described. Okay, I believe I'm about ready to actually show you this system. Yep, coming up. I'm now going to show you SurveyMonkey. I'm going to show you how to find your survey, key parts of the system, some bits about the help. After that, after I give you this tour of making a survey, we'll take a little break, I'll take some questions, and then I'll talk about how to look at results in more detail. Any questions at this point? All right. So, I am going to run the web browser. Go. Yes, I'm sorry, thank you.
I've heard that SurveyMonkey can be quite good even if you're not doing a questionnaire in terms of like collating your results and making graphs at the end of it.
Yes.
Is that true? And would you go about it the same way?
Give me more information.
So, for example, if you're doing an audit and you're collecting data from drug charts, for example, could you put that information into SurveyMonkey to make graphs? And if you can, would you have to still phrase the questions as though they were questionnaire questions in order to make those graphs?
Good question. Good question. The answer is yes. In that case, the survey you're creating is more the questions you've discussed with your tutor. What's important for this audit? And you still, I presume you're still going to have a stack of papers.
Yeah, I still got a lot of data. Just
That's it. And so then with the stack of papers, you recreate the survey in SurveyMonkey, even though it's just for your own internal use, and then enter the data. Actually, I misspoke. If you're going to create graphs in SurveyMonkey, the questions are going to appear in the graphs that you create online. So you want to make them for the viewing of the markers. Good?
Yeah.
You reminded me of another important point. For those of you using paper surveys, so you have your paper survey, you want to put the information into SurveyMonkey. For the most part, you just recreate your survey and put it into SurveyMonkey. However, I recommend you add one field to the beginning of your SurveyMonkey survey, and that is survey ID. Go through your whole stack of surveys, in the upper right corner, write down survey number 001, 002, 003, and put that number in your online survey. That way, when you make a data entry mistake, and I'm not criticizing you because I know I make more than you do, you will see all of a sudden one of your bar charts, instead of having a range that you expect between maybe 5 and 10, has a range all of a sudden 5 to 100. You're like, what's up with that? You can go find a survey that has a value of 100. There's the ID online. You find the paper version, and you fix the problem, and you get a better mark. Good question. Any other questions? Before I actually sign in, I'm going to show you the help system. For those of you who haven't met with me yet, or are still in the process of meeting with me, you can still make plenty of progress. Go to surveymonkey.com and click Help. You will see some wonderful help on getting started, creating a survey. You don't have to worry about payment. We have that one covered. Creating and designing surveys, distributing and getting responses, analyzing results, and some other. The two in the bottom you probably don't have to worry about. There's a user manual. There's a lot of helpful items. I mentioned earlier that if you're using paper surveys, search for paper. I click Help. How do I manually input responses? I click that one. A very nice, brief answer appears with a video. Parts of it are less brief, but at least it has a nice use of headings and short lists. If this isn't the question you're looking for, there's related FAQs in the upper right corner. It's a good help system. I hope you make use of it. Finally, I will sign in. I'm going to use a different account for the sake of this demonstration. It will look identical to your account. Okay, seems like some of my colleagues have changed their password. That's all right. I'm going to use your account. So here's what you'll see after signing in. That was interesting. That surprises me. I'm still in the Help Center. I want to get back to the main screen. There's a few ways to do it. I'm going to try to find the most basic. I'm just going to go to surveymonkey.com. There we are. Now that I'm signed in, you'll see this screen. The survey that was changed most recently comes to the top. Just to emphasize again, all these surveys are from other students. We do not want you to look at anybody else's survey or their data that is a serious privacy issue. One time, eventually you'll create your own survey. I'll talk about that in a moment, and it'll appear in this list. You're going to give that survey a name that you can later search on. So I'm going to search for surveys with my name in it. There's a couple. So I have these various questions in SurveyMonkey. You can put pictures in if you want, as long as you keep it simple. Pictures can be helpful. There are quite a few options of surveys. There's different ways to print surveys. Question bank, ignore. Restore, ignore. I'm going to make one simple question. Let's see. As I scroll through here, I can add a question in many places. Add a question here, I can add it there. I'll add a question here. What year are you in? After that, I click on the drop-down menu and choose multiple choice, only one answer, multiple choice, multiple answers. Those two question types can take you a long way for your first study. Comment essay box, very likely you'll be using that as well. If you want to create the Likert scale or the ranking, it's a matrix of choices. For now, I'm going to make a multiple choice one answer. Save and close. Not too complex. As I'm working on this question, I may think, I made a mistake. This question here, number 2, relates to the picture. But I put my question between those two. No problem. I can move the question by clicking the Move button. Not too surprising. And then, all of a sudden, a bright green shows up, and I can click it to say Move Question here. That question just moved. Fairly straightforward. I mentioned a collector. That's under the area called Collect Responses. This is something that seems it's quite vague, abstract, and critical. Your collector will be listed under the collector name. Very likely there will only be one hyperlink under this name, and it's important. I click on the collector once, and there's the URL I sent people. One important step that I skipped is called creating survey. So I click Create Survey. I give it a title and patients with patient concerns about. I'm probably spelling that wrong. I spelled diabetes. Is that right? Yeah. Thank you. No, spell check. D. Huh? D-I-A. Thank you. Is that better?
Yes.
Good? 20 people against one word. It's a fair fight. All right. I click Continue. And I start with a blank piece, a blank screen, or a blank piece of paper, I still think of. I believe all of your surveys are going to start with the document saying that you've had this approved by St. George's. Chris Fessy and Paul, somebody, Bhutan, has provided that information. So most likely, that information is going to go right here. Edit page options, edit page information. So I might call this an introduction. About a one-page description. We'll go here. Copy, paste, 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 paste. Another paragraph. Paste, 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 paste. There it is. After that, you'll probably add a question. How long have you had B-I-A-B-E-T-E-S? A-S. Yes. Thank you. Multiple choice, one answer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'll say anything, hold on, what am I talking about? Months? Years. Let's say it's years. How many years? And you might go further than 10. I'm just going to stop there for now. You can also adjust the number of columns. I'll make it 3 for this demonstration. Save and close. This brings up an important point when you create survey questions. Many people, again, professors, students, myself on occasion, I forget, will create a question like this and make a text box after it. How many years have you had diabetes? Open text box. Some people will say 2, TWO. Some people will write the number, 2. Some people will say 2.0. Some will say about 2. Some will say 2.5. If you have that open text box, you now have the pleasure of spending a few hours on a Saturday reading that intriguing writing. I really hope you have a better way to spend your time. If you use something like this, you don't have to do that. SurveyMonkey will automatically tabulate this for you. Similarly, let's say you do want to ask open-ended question. So you're dealing with patients with diabetes, you might want to ask them some questions about their diet. Intuitively, you would say, what are the major parts of your daily diet? Open text box. It's a good idea. But, once again, you get the pleasure of reading every single response people write in that text box. I hope you have better ways to spend your time. Instead, one possibility you could apply is anticipate some answers. So if you're asking about someone's diet, put in the major food groups or some examples that you've learned about. Have them tick the ones that matter, and then say, what other parts of your diet would you like to include? So if you say, what are the major parts of your diet, and you have fruit and veg and grain and fish and all that business, they can tick the ones that matter, and then add other parts at the end. That means you cut down your analysis time by a respectable amount. And you have not restricted the person's ability to answer. You are not biasing the answers because you're giving them the opportunity to put it in their own words as well. That will save you hours of analysis time. Okay. I believe I am near the end of the items I wanted to describe regarding creating the survey. I'm going to have a quick look at my list. Talking about the most important parts, how to create a survey, the help system. My next item to discuss is analyzing results. Before I do that, does anyone have any more questions about the SurveyMonkey? So I am now going to go and look at some results. which is harder than it used to be because I am not able to get into the account, a password changed that I didn't expect. So I am going to think for a moment if there is a survey I can show you that respects privacy issues. So please bear with me for just a moment while I find the survey. I am not going to use a student survey. That's not what we're going to do. The privacy issues are too high there. I will sign in again and try some different accounts. All right. Not having a good day with passwords. Again, I appreciate your patience. It'll just be a moment. All right, I am going to look at one. All of this is anonymous, I want to emphasize, so nothing I show you will have people's names in them. I'm looking for a survey that is particularly old. As a matter of fact, I'm going to sort it by the date it was last used 5 years ago. That looks safer. What I'm now looking at is a number of responses. I want to find something that actually has some data in it. So, again, I'll just be a moment looking for inappropriate. There we are. This comes from 2008, 2009. Has an overview, as you would guess. A Likert scale, questions about case-based learning. More Likert scale. Okay, analyzing the results. That's the far right tab in SurveyMonkey. In the most basic level, we're seeing the exact same content as before, but I'm going to show you how to take this a bit further. You can also see how having some long terms can actually be a problem in your results. It looks a bit strange. Visual appearance does count for something when trying to create results that are clear. If I click the Create Chart button, there are a lot of charts you can create. If you like a particular chart, I'll go back to a bar chart. That's probably the most common for a study like yours. You can download the chart, save the file, and put that right into PowerPoint. So if I say File, make a copy, I'm going to put it on the desktop of this computer, or perhaps on my H drive, my shared drive, and I'll call it Chart Export 1, save it. It's on H, Chart Export 1. If I go back to PowerPoint, make a new slide, I can insert where's graphic, photo album, clip art, where's picture. I put it on H. Insert. So if the tables in the presentation in SurveyMonkey doesn't suit you, one of the charts is something you like, you can pop that right into PowerPoint. If you do like the way that the results appear in SurveyMonkey, one of these tables, I managed to confuse myself. Where's the window I need? There it is. Let's say you like this table just the way it is. Works great. A little sort of hidden feature in Windows is the print screen button. I'm going to it's on the upper right corner. It says print screen. I'm pressing that button right now. I just copied the screen. What's on the screen right now. I will show you now how to put that copy into PowerPoint. I can choose paste. Once I find paste, there's paste. There's the screen I just copied using print screen. I can fiddle around with the selection button and get just the part that I want. I only want this box. Highlight it. Copy. Back to PowerPoint. Make a new slide. And paste. One of the most appealing parts of SurveyMonkey is to get these charts created easily for you. So here are two methods to get data from SurveyMonkey. If you want to get a bit more sophisticated, and I offer this with a caution, you can do something called crosstabs. The first thing I need to do before I move into that is find some options to do a crosstab with. I need to find something that says, what year are you in? A crosstabs allows you to create a table showing that it compares one group to another. And none are coming up in this new data set. It's all Likert scale questions. Okay, I can't demonstrate this right now, but I'm going to briefly explain it. In crosstabs, you get almost exactly the same information as one of these questions. But you get it for two different groups of people. So let's say you want to compare people who've had diabetes for less than 5 years and more than 5 years. You can put the data right next to each other, and it'll come out in this report. If you want to learn more about crosstabs, look in the help system. It's a great reporting tool to have. For instance, think of another example. You're asking people if the standard of teaching was good. You can run a crosstab where you have year 1 students compared to year 4 students, and have it right there in one table. I believe that's everything I wanted to show. I'll move on to my conclusion. My purpose in this presentation was primarily to help you get a good mark and avoid time-consuming tasks. There's a lot of features in SurveyMonkey, and there's a lot of ways you can create a survey. Please choose the simplest for now. You can get a great mark with a simple survey. Some important issues. Is your overall survey question built on existing evidence and not opinion? As I mentioned during this presentation, a lot of people in my beloved field of e-learning think the latest technology is always going to be the best. It's not really the case. That's an opinion. That is not evidence. Has your overall survey question been scrutinized and revised? Are you asking vague questions like, how does natural medicine help you? We don't know what natural medicine is, so try to make your question specific. Once you have your research question, do all the survey questions clearly relate to your research question? Have you finished your survey soon enough to give yourself some time to make the survey and learn SurveyMonkey? After this meeting, please send me a message asking for a 15-minute meeting. Or after this lecture, send me a note asking for a 15-minute meeting. If you want to save some time, tell me 2 or 3 time periods when you're available. A final item I should add to important issues, there's always a couple more. Have a plan for increasing your survey results. There's no magic number of what a survey should include. But I will take a small risk and say that if you start looking at 15 or 20 total respondents, that's pretty low. Maybe you have a very unique group, like consultants in a particular field. Okay, and it might be all right. But generally speaking, that's a bit low. Sometimes even 30 or 40, a bit low. But in either case, if you have a difficult time increasing that, if you make an effort, excuse me, and on your poster, you say the number of results was lower than I hoped, but here are the 3 efforts I made to increase them. You just helped yourself out. You made an effort. It's not easy to get results. In my email address. Any questions? I'll be here for a few minutes. If anyone has specific questions or comments, I have to leave at 10 minutes to 2 just to make sure I get to another lecture. But for now, yes, question.
If you've got questions such as how do you have siblings and say yes or no, and then if they say no, you can skip the next question. How do you skip?
Very, very good question. That question, that technique, can be accomplished with branching and SurveyMonkey. However, I recommend you do not use branching because it's a whole level of technical sophistication that can take a while, unless you're very technically savvy. Instead, what I recommend is saying, if you answered yes, please answer this question. It's a simpler way to get a similar job done. Anything else? I've enjoyed talking with you. I wish you the best of luck in your SSCs, and thank you for your attention. There's not a session on Excel, but if you contact my colleague in the library, Fiona Graham,